It's been a while since I've just yapped for a video, and I saw the last one I did about Fate did pretty good, so I thought it'd be a pretty good idea to just do that again. But this time I'm gonna be talking about 5 Fate Stay Night game ideas that I've kind of just brainstormed that they could do in the future. And they'd be kind of adapting Fate Stay Night, but the focus on these ideas is more just making a fun game featuring just a bunch of Stay Night characters. My first idea for a next Fate Stay Night game would be a Warriors type game, since the Fate franchise isn't really a stranger to Dynasty Warriors gameplay, like in Fate Extra and Samurai Remnant. I think adapting the Stay Night VN into a Samurai Remnant story format would work really well, since that's a game that already has a bunch of story choices and different endings. Like, imagine playing through all 3 routes of that and getting different builds for Shirou depending on which one. It would kind of feel like Iori's progression in the game, but instead of getting more stances, you'd get more projections and abilities from those to use in combat. And they could also do the gimmick from Samurai Remnant where there's a servant gauge you have where you play as your master for a certain amount of time, and then once that's filled you get to play as Artoria. Then to vary up the gameplay, there could also be Rin and Emiya segments where they're playable, and in Heaven's Feel you could also play as Medusa in the fight against Alter Saber, or even you could play as Alter Saber just, fighting some of the other characters and stuff. Alright, so Fate Unlimited Codes was a Fate fighting game made by Capcom back in 2008 that still has a surprising amount of people playing it and talking about it, mostly just for how insane the combos could be. Like, I played it before in the past, and meaning Shirou obviously. It's just so satisfying to play. Like a sequel or a remake to that captures like the same feeling but with better graphics, more characters, and on just better consoles would be crazy. It could probably be like the next Fighter Z, because it would have a bunch of people playing it who aren't even fans of Fate, just playing it for how good the gameplay is. Or maybe they could even do something similar, but like instead of like Capcom making it, they have ArcSys or something. Alright, this one's kind of boring in comparison to the rest of them, but I feel like it has to be on the list for, possibilities. But I think a basic anime arena fighter could also work with Fate, because it's obviously not as unique as the other ones, but I feel like Fate can do it pretty well, since there's a lot of spectacle with how servants fight with their noble phantasms and everything, and just huge attacks that get labeled as gas leaks. I'm thinking it would be kind of like Storm 4, but with like more gimmicks around, the masters and servant systems, mana, stuff like that, to make it feel more like Fate. Like maybe masters and servants could have their own like separate, unique play style, or like something more to differentiate them than just all the characters feeling the same how they usually do in arena fighters. Alright, this is a more exciting one. I got a turn-based JRPG like Fate Extra, because it actually feels like you're in a grill war trying to get intel on whatever next servant you're fighting. Even though it's Stay Night, it'll feel a bit less like that, but they could still like emulate that type of feeling you had in Fate Extra throughout it. And in Fate Extra, there's a bunch of choices you make that can directly lead to dead ends, and that's kind of the same with Fate Stay Night, so that they could adapt that the same way pretty much. So you'd have to like think about all of your actions that you make. The combat itself wasn't the best in it, but it's getting a remake soon where the trailer showed that they actually fixed it, so they could just do something like that. I also think adapting Fate Stay Night as a game like this would work really well, even though it's probably a harder game to make than the other ones I said. Alright, my last idea for a new Fate Stay Night game would be to make it like Koei Tecmo's original idea for Fate Samurai Remnant, where it was actually a Souls-like instead of a Warriors game. I feel like a Souls-like would really be immersive in making you feel like Shirou, since in every fight it would feel like the servants are just leagues ahead of you, and then Saber would have to like come in to just carry you in most of the fights early game, and then like towards mid and end game you'd really be more on your own and then just like actually fighting and getting strong. I feel like an idea like that would mostly work well for the Unlimited Blade Works route and Heaven's Feel route, because yeah, those would just fit well in terms of like Shirou's combat progression. Alright, and those are some of my ideas for what a future Stay Night game could be like. If you have any of your own different ideas of what it could be, then comment them down below, and thanks for watching.